go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. This is your boy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Super duper grateful to be here with you guys, man. I can't take it for granted. Always got to start to show our gratitude, right? You guys could be anywhere in the world, but you're here. You're here with me this afternoon. And normally I give you guys a late night show. Normally we're live about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. sometimes, maybe sometimes 9 p.m., right? But, you know, like my man Spy City said, they're not like us. And we're going to continue to do this thing the way we do it. And I appreciate you guys for locking in. Shout out to Flexing and Stepping, Jason 18, Nico and Steven Scher, the Crow Killers, Dylan Canepa, Philly Flyover. I appreciate y'all, man. So make sure I continue to stay locked in. Everybody else that's in a live stream that hasn't really made themselves known quite yet, hasn't really spoken their piece quite yet, I appreciate y'all for being here, man. Shout out to my YouTube family, my X family, my Facebook family. You guys are awesome. Continue to stay locked in on the content. We're going to continue to pump this out as much as we can, all things considered. And man, oh man, you know, it's the off season. And well, again, before I get too deep into the content, right, please, again, smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. If you're new, if you're an OG subscriber, you already know what it is. Please make sure you guys turn on your notification bell in the live stream or on the channel, right? That notification bell next to the subscribe button, it makes you aware, it makes you privy to whenever I go live or whenever I drop content, okay? So please make sure you have that notification bell on so you can know whenever things drop on the Chalk It Up Sports YouTube channel. Smash the like button, continue to share as well, comment below. All the engagement helps the content grow, and you guys are a part of this ecosystem. You guys are a part of this community that we're building here. So make sure you guys remain on the right side of history so we can continue to grow this thing and continue to make history, and it's straight like that. So like I said, you know, the news wire at this point in the season is pretty cold, right? A lot of players are, you know, doing their vacationing, and a lot of players are probably doing their own workouts, you know, trying to stay in shape, things like that. As a matter of fact, the NBA draft is tonight, so the NBA is probably going to dominate the headlines, at least for the next couple of days. This is the first time the NBA is going to have 2 days of drafting, right? The first time, so it's good for them. But this is mainly a football show here, and maybe as the show grows, we'll start to incorporate some basketball. But this is mainly a football show. This is mainly a Philadelphia Eagles NFL-centric show, and we're going to continue to keep the ball rolling on Eagles football, even though there's not much going on. So let's put this thing out there, right? You guys saw the thumbnail. You guys know what we're going to talk about today. You know, my last live stream, I talked about the defense, and a lot of you guys went to go check that out, man. Please, if you haven't already, go check out my previous live stream where I discussed the Philadelphia Eagles defense and how people should start to look at them and take them very seriously. And in theory, they should be afraid, because if all things go right, this thing could get real critical for other teams. And again, the Eagles aren't coming from a place of respect, right, in terms of the defense. The defense has a long way to go. The defense has an uphill battle, but they're young, they're talented, they're athletic. They got a new defensive coordinator who's well respected in the league. A lot of things can turn around for this defense if everything goes right. I know everyone's going to give an A+ effort. I believe that. I think everybody is going to give an A+ effort. But if we can get at least a B-level result from everybody, this defense is going to be really, really good, right? You know, and it's going to be a full range, right? Some players are going to have A results, B results, C results, right? But if you have a cumulative result of maybe B or B+ defense, or if you can get that defense from being bottom third of the league to being top third, or let's just take it a step further, if that defense can go to being top 14, top 13, right? Because 14 teams make the playoffs, 7 from both sides of the conference, right? If that Philadelphia Eagles defense can be top 7 in the NFC, top 14 in the NFL, right? Or even top 12, if they can get to that area from being bottom of the barrel, that'd be a huge win, especially for a first-year coordinator in Vic Fangio with the Philadelphia Eagles. And you got a lot of young players you're bringing in. You're trying to get younger. You're getting more athletic. You're trying to change the entire culture of this defense. You drafted 2 DBs in your first in the draft, your first 2 picks, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. You brought in that DB room is way more talented than what we thought it would be, right? But here we are. But I want to focus on the defensive line. In particular, I want to focus on the edge rushers. 2 guys in particular who, in my opinion, this defense is hinging on their success. You know, I talk a lot about how Jordan Davis is the heart of the defense. And what I mean by that is he is going to be playing that nose tackle role. He's going to be in the heart of the action. If Jordan Davis doesn't do his job well, he's going to make it harder for other guys next to him, like a Jalen Carter, like a Nolan Smith. He's going to make it harder for guys like Devin White, Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean. If Jordan Davis doesn't do his job to the level that we expect him to do it, it's going to be a long season for this Philadelphia Eagles defense, right? But aside from Jordan Davis, there are two other defensive linemen or edge rushers or DNs, however you want to classify them, right? The NFL has blurred those lines. There are two guys in the pass rush who the success of this defense largely depends on, and that's Josh Sweat and that's Bryce Huff. Let's start with Josh Sweat, the young veteran. Josh Sweat, 26 years old. And Josh Sweat, he's had a very fascinating football career. He was a top prospect coming out of high school, but what happened was he had a catastrophic knee injury that really followed him going into college, and it led to his draft stock falling. Josh Sweat, from a pure measurable standpoint, the eye test, everything that he was showing in high school, going into college, he could have been a first-round pick, but he ended up being a fourth-round pick, 130th overall to be exact, in the 2018 draft coming out of Florida State. He ended up being a fourth-round draft pick because of that knee injury. 6'5", 265 pounds. He's rebuilt his body. He's built himself back up in the NFL. He's actually earned more snaps in the NFL because of him beginning to take care of his body and relearning his triggers in his body and getting that speed back. And the Eagles kind of had him on the pitch count early on in his career, but as he's gotten more seasoned, as he's gotten more entrenched in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles, his snap count has increased exponentially, right? His role has increased exponentially. But here's the thing with Josh Sweat. He's not really coming off of the season that we thought he would have. Let's go down to the numbers here, because Josh Sweat in 2023, 17 games played, fully healthy, only 6.5 sacks, 7 TFLs. We expected more from Josh Sweat. Why? Not just because we have high expectations or not just because we think he's a talented player. Think about his 2022 campaign. And I want to zoom in on here to make sure we all get this. His 2022 campaign, look at the numbers. 16 games played, only missed one game because of a weird neck injury, but was healthy for the better part of the season. In 2022, he had an interception, which he returned for a touchdown against the Cowboys, had a pass deflection, forced fumble. He had 11 sacks, which is a career high for him. 11 sacks. Granted, that Philadelphia Eagles defense went on the tear in 2022, broke the organization's sack record, came close to that 80s Bears team. He had 15 TFLs, 48 total tackles. Josh Sweat was a man on a mission. And then in 2021, he was a Pro Bowler, right? 7.5 sacks, 7 TFLs. But I think he got that Pro Bowl selection because some guys ended up going to the Super Bowl, whatever. But nonetheless, the year from 2023 or the year from 2022 to 2023, a drastic drop off in the production. And here's where things get really wonky for him, because in 2022, everybody was on a tear, and that rotation was tremendous in 2022. Remember, they still had Ndamukong Suh, they had Linval Joseph, Brandon Graham had a career year, so the rotation was really strong. They had Hassan Reddick there, and I'm trying to remember. They had traded for Robert Quinn, even though he didn't make that much of an impact, but you had another body there. They had a lot of bodies on that. They had Derek Barnett still on the roster, so they had a lot of bodies on that team that they were rotating in 2022. And in 2022, through 16 games played, he played a grand total of 587 defensive snaps, which amounted for 56% of the defensive snaps on defense at his position. He was on the field 56% of the time as an edge rusher, right? And then you go to the 2023 season, only a game difference, right? 17 games versus 16 games in 2022. In 2023, he played 17 games, but look at the snap count. Look at the difference. 828 in 2023 versus 2022, 587 total defensive snaps. 71% versus 56%. That is the highest snap count by a large margin that he's ever had in his career. Prior to 2023, the largest snap count he had was 62% or 655 snaps, right? And that was in 2021. But for the most part, Josh Sweat hasn't really eclipsed 60% snaps, 60% of the defensive snaps in his career. He hasn't really touched that 700 range or 800 range. That was the largest amount of snaps he's played by far. As a matter of fact, if you want to do some math, I think that's about a 250 snap difference from 2022 to 2023. I mean, for a guy that has really battled the injury, I don't want to say bug, but for a guy who's been slowly getting himself back to being that guy, and for him to have that kind of fall off because of the snap count increase, that tells me something, right? That tells me that the Philadelphia Eagles didn't have enough depth on the defensive line, especially at edge rusher. That tells me that Josh Sweat is really not a edge rusher that thrives in that high motor role. I'll be honest. Max Crosby, edge rusher for the Raiders, that dude quite literally plays 98, 99, almost 100% of the defensive snaps for the Raiders. That's not really common. But at the end of the day, he does that. And I'm not saying Josh Sweat has to do that, but I think the Eagles need to do a better job at putting their players, their personnel in a better position to succeed. The Eagles had no real pass rush last year. The sack count dropped exponentially. The sack count dropped exponentially. So I'm looking at it from the perspective of this Philadelphia Eagles defense, Vic Fangio, they needed to get younger. They need more depth at the position, or needed more depth at the position. They needed to find a better way to rotate those guys. It's going to be so important, and Spy City said it, right? Nolan has to have a breakout year. Nolan has to have a breakout year. This is a time where Nolan has to pick up the slack. Nolan Smith was here last year, and for some reason, they didn't trust him enough to take the load off of Josh Sweat. In my humble opinion, I don't give a damn how much behind in the playbook he is, or if he's catching on a little slow. You need to take pressure off of Josh Sweat. You had that man on the field for 800 plus snaps. He's never did that in his career. So no wonder he didn't have the impact that we thought he would have. You get it? Some players, they thrive better in that, 50 to 60% range of snap count. Other players, their motor is running so hot, it don't matter what it is. Every player doesn't operate under the same parameters. So I feel like a guy like Josh Sweat, you want the best out of him, don't let him go above 60% or 65% of the snaps. Don't do that to him. I know he's 27 years old, but at the end of the day, it's proven. We've seen Josh Sweat for several seasons, right? His best season happened to come where he was in that sweet spot in terms of snap count, right? And we had better depth on the defensive line. So I think it's so important for a guy like Josh Sweat to come out and really make a large impact. But it's going to largely depend on if the Eagles can really replenish the ranks on the defensive line. Brandon Graham is on his last leg. This is his last hurrah. You dig what I'm saying? Nolan Smith has to come out and show people. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Hunt. What can he provide? Right? Zach Bond. He has pass rush experience. So what's that going to look like? I want to pull up the depth chart real quick, so I can make sure I'm looking really intentionally at the depth there. Milton Williams right now was listed as a defensive end on this roster. So, he's more of a tweener, right? There's guys on this roster that have to make an impact. They have to. Joshua, like I said. And then I want to transition to the good brother, Bryce Huff. Because Bryce Huff, here's the reality about Bryce Huff. 6'3", 255. I like the size. They gave that young brother $17 million a year. They gave him a grand total of, what's that, 17 times 3? That's about 42, 43 million a year, if I'm not mistaken, right? No, I lied. That's about 50-something million a year. I'm sorry, 50-something million in total in the contract, right? Because 17 to 17 is 34. 34 plus 17, that's about 51 million, 52 million. Yeah. So again, Bryce Huff, you're getting the money. You're getting the money now. 6'3", 255, an undrafted player, right? Coming out of Memphis. He was formerly with the New York Jets. And Bryce Huff is coming off of a career season. Bryce Huff, throughout his career, been a rotational guy. Never really was making the biggest impact, but he was grinding and slowly but surely earning his way up the depth chart. And in 2023, he had his breakout season. Through 17 games played, he didn't start a single game, by the way. He was a rotational defensive end. So by the Philadelphia Eagles bringing him in, they're clearly betting on his upside, right? They're betting on the emerging talents, or they're betting on the ascension of Bryce Huff, right? In 2023, 17 games played, 10 sacks, 29 total tackles, 21 quarterback hits, 10 TFLs, a pass deflection. You know, Bryce Huff, he was making it happen in that role that he was in with the Jets. But what will that look like with the Philadelphia Eagles? This is where things get really interesting for Bryce Huff, right? And this is where I compare it to Josh Sweat. Bryce Huff, throughout his career, look at the snap counts here. In 2020, 30%. 2021, 51% of the snaps. 2022, 20% of the snaps. 2023, 42% of the snaps. If you want the exact snap count here, 295, 337, 191, 480. His most consistent reps came in 2023. And we've never seen Bryce Huff pick up a large workload, right? We've never seen Bryce Huff in that starting edge rusher role. So I'm looking at that and I say to myself, all right, is that something to be concerned about? You gave him the money. He's going to be he's supposed to be one of your premier edge rushers in this new defense. Going to be 26 years old, I believe, when the season starts. Make sure I got this right. He's 26. He's 26 years old now. So you're looking at Bryce Huff and you're saying to yourself, okay, you gave him the money. You traded Hassan Reddick to the Jets. So basically, y'all swap players. Hassan Reddick, regardless of what's going on around him, Hassan Reddick has been a constant contributor on the Philadelphia Eagles and the NFL, especially over the past four seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Hassan Reddick led the Eagles in sacks last year, 11 sacks, 38 total tackles, 13 TFLs, a forced fumble, a pass deflection. Hassan Reddick was the Eagles' best defensive player in 2022 and 2023. It goes without saying. So you trade that player away and you bring in Bryce Huff and pair him up with Josh Sweat. This isn't a Hassan Reddick conversation. This is more so about the fact that you're bringing in Bryce Huff, and I'm looking at Josh Sweat and him, and I'm saying to myself, okay, you two have to lead this team in sacks. If it ain't Jalen Carter, because he's a defensive tackle, most of the time, D tackles don't lead your team in sacks unless you're Aaron Donald. It's not really common. But Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, those two brothers don't really have evidence showing that they can be as productive as they're supposed to be with the high snap count load. We've seen Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat optimize their success, or we've seen them optimize their skill set and be successful with a certain amount of snap counts, right? And we've seen what it looks like when Josh Sweat has to play that larger role. We've seen what that looks like. So again, this is not me trying to make it about Hassan Reddick. This is more so about the fact that Bryce Huff, never seen him play more than 50% of the snaps consistently, or never seen him play more than 500 defensive snaps. Josh Sweat, we've seen him kind of struggle with the larger workload. So I asked myself, more so than can the player do it, I asked myself, do the Philadelphia Eagles have enough depth that they trust to put out there to take pressure off these guys so we can keep them fresh? Does that make sense to you guys? I look at Bryce Huff and I say, okay, I know he's talented, I look at Josh Sweat and I say, okay, I know he's talented. I know if they got an opportunity, they're going to sack the quarterback. But in those closing moments, when it's in the fourth quarter, when your defense 9 times out of 10 is gassed, when your rotation is even more important than ever, can Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat be those guys you can lean on to shut things down? Can they be those guys you can lean on to really put the pressure on the quarterback? Not just at the end of games, but also as we get deeper into the season. That Philadelphia Eagles defense, in particular, that pass rush ran out of gas if they ever had any. We saw them get close week after week after week, and they still couldn't get to the quarterback. So I'm not trying to talk down on anybody. I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of, do we have enough depth? Can they thrive in this rotation? What happens if they have to play 65, 70% of the snaps at edge rusher? That's all I'm asking. I want us to think about it from that perspective, because this defense is dependent on them. I really think so. And I think this defense is going to really turn it around. Let me make that clear, you guys. I think this defense is really going to turn things around. But I want to be optimistic and still keep it real with y'all. I still want to do that. Let me give a shout out to my man G Dragon 486 with the $2 donation. He says, can Hurts win from the pocket? 30 plus throws a game. Well, throughout Jalen Hurts' career, he's averaged about 27, 28 throws per game throughout his career, or at least over the past couple seasons, the past 2 seasons, he's averaged around 27 to 29 attempts per game, right? And according to the statistics, Jalen Hurts is very accurate from the pocket. So I don't know your angle, G Dragon, but I do appreciate the $2 donation, because statistically, Jalen Hurts has shown you that he can win from the pocket. And statistically, he averages about 27 to 29 attempts per game, especially in particular over the past 3 seasons. So if he has to throw the ball more, I don't see why we would even force the issue. If you got such a loaded team, you got Saquon Barkley at running back, I think this team is more dangerous when they're balanced. As a matter of fact, I don't think any offense wants to throw the ball 40 plus times a game. I think every offense really wants to have a balanced attack so you don't know what's coming. So I don't get caught up in the whole he has to throw the ball 30 plus times a game. Can he win from the? I don't get caught up in that. You want to know why? Because he's proven statistically he can win from the pocket. He's proven that statistically. Now, we can choose to ignore that. I can't help you with that. But the reality is he's won from the pocket. The numbers say that. And the numbers say he averages between 27 to 29 attempts per game since he's been a starter. So that's his sweet spot. I'm not here to turn him into something he's not. He has a legit star running back. He has a star supporting cast. I want my quarterback's job to be easy. I don't want my quarterback having to throw the ball 40 plus times a game. That just tells me you're down, you're behind. So that's my perspective. But I appreciate the donation, G Dragon. I really do. Thank you for locking in, man. As a matter of fact, let me make sure I give you your wrench. Please use it wisely. I want to add you as a standard moderator. Okay. And going to give my man D Love. Oh, he already got his wrench. Cool. Okay. So, and I think my man Joey Shakes was in the live stream, right? My man Joey Shakes, the good brother Joey Shakes, we're here. And my man Bird Gang 31 was good. Hope all is well with you, brothers. Hope all is well. Thank you again, G Dragon. Let's see. Let's see what my man said. Joey Shakes. I'm gonna get to a bunch of your comments too. BG says, I think Huff will get double-digit sacks, though. He had the same production in terms of sacks in half the time. But that's my problem, right? I'm concerned, or let me put it this way. Let me not say concerned. I'm interested. I'm interested to see if Bryce Huff, in terms of his production, I'm curious to see if it will increase with the larger workload. Will his production decrease with the larger workload, or will it plateau due to the larger workload. So, I mean, obviously we have our predictions, right? But I think it's a fair question to ask. He has never played north of 500 snaps ever. By getting that money, being on this team, he's a starter now. They're going to be asking him to do a lot more. Will his production go up with his opportunities? Will the opportunities scaffold the production? I think that's a fair question to ask. My man Joey Shakes, he says, but Hassan Reddick is streaky. 1 month he'll have 6 sacks, another month he'll have none. Fangio won it off, ball scheme fits. I understand that. I totally understand that, but I can't ignore how clutch Hassan Reddick has been for the Philadelphia Eagles in the past. But again, I don't want to make this about Hassan Reddick. I don't. But I appreciate you, Joey. You know you're my guy, man. You brought up a very good point. Hassan Reddick is a very streaky player, but man, those streaks come at the right time, don't they? But again, I really don't want to mention Hassan Reddick throughout this live stream because that's really then, and I want to stay in the now. Joey Shake says they're putting a lot of faith in Jalen Hunt and Bryce Huff that hasn't played over 43% of snaps in rotation. If Nolan Smith produced, I would have felt more comfortable. Thank you. That's all I'm trying to say, Joey. All I'm trying to say is Nolan Smith, he was here last year. They clearly didn't feel comfortable enough to allowing him to take pressure off of Josh Sweat. That's a problem for me. BG, he was here last year. They didn't even feel comfortable with BG taking pressure off of Josh Sweat. Hassan Reddick, I think, played about over 80% of the snaps, over 90%, something like that. Josh Sweat, same thing. So it's just one of those things like, or Josh Sweat played about over 800 snaps. So I look at it like you had Brandon Graham, you had Nolan Smith on the roster, you even had Milton Williams for a guy who's a tweener. You didn't have the creativity or the ingenuity to try to get those guys in some kind of rotation. And I think that speaks to the coaching staff. I think that's why this coaching staff really, or this team really suffered. They didn't have the right people in the building. They didn't have the right people coaching-wise to really know how to handle these rotations. They didn't. You know, it's easy for me to kill Josh Sweat. It's easy for me to kill Nolan Smith or whatever, or BG. It's easy for me to do that. But the hard part is really looking at those coaches and looking at the coaches and saying, what were you doing with the rotations? In what world? Why did Josh Sweat have over 800 snaps? He's never done that in his career. Now, some may argue, well, Tone, he's 26, 25. It's time for his role to grow. Fair enough. Not going to argue with that either. But as of right now, based off of the evidence, he can't do that. Based off of the evidence, his sweet spot is that 500 to 600 snap range. That's his sweet spot. Let's keep him there, keep him fresh. All these defenses actually want to keep their edge rushers fresh. Everybody wants to keep their pass rushers fresh because you need them at the end of games, especially when things are close. So I agree, Joey. They are putting a lot of faith in Jalen Hunt. They are putting a lot of faith in Bryce Huff. You know, Jalen Hunt, he's a very fascinating prospect, but he's raw. And I don't know how up to speed he will be by the time the season starts. You know, one of the things on him was, you know, he's a former DB turned edge rusher, put on a lot of muscle quickly, a really big dude. He looks the part, but he's a little raw with the pass rush moves. You know, his hand action, his moves are a little limited, right? He relies a lot on athleticism and speed and his strength and things like that. So he has to really improve his skill set if he's going to be going up against these top tier offensive linemen. Let me get to this super chat real quick. My man D-Love, thank you so much. He says, speaking of depth, I think the Eagles making a big mistake relying on Paris Campbell as the number 3, in my opinion. Your thoughts on that? Interesting question. I don't know if they've made it clear that they're relying on him, though. That's kind of like how I'm kind of looking at that, right? I don't know if they've made it so definitive that he's the guy that they're depending on. You feel what I'm saying? I don't know if that's something that's lockstep or already determined. That number 3 spot at wide receiver is an open competition. So I don't know if they are currently relying on him, but he has an opportunity. He has a shot as good as anybody else. But you know, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Paris Campbell as your number 3, you can do a lot worse. Remember, it's the number 3 wide receiver role. If you look at all these NFL teams and look at their number 3, you're gonna be gravely disappointed. Every team doesn't have a legit number 3. It's very hard. You know, your number 3 guys, he's a role player at the end of the day. But you still want a guy out there that can catch the ball when it's thrown to him. That's what you want. Thank you again, D-Love, for donating to the channel. But again, I don't think they've definitively indicated that they're relying on Paris Campbell. But I think what you're really saying is if they do decide Paris Campbell is the answer, you're saying that's a mistake. I don't know if I completely agree with that. Thank you again, D-Love, for the $4.99 donation, my brother. I really do appreciate you. Let's get back to the defensive line talk. My man Joby Shake says two DNs are free agents after 2024 or after this season, right? Brandon Graham retires. Josh Sweat is going after the restructure if they don't pay him. Bryce Huff is not enough, and he will be a fantastic player. Yeah, they're going to have to really. I think they're really, and this goes back to your point. I think they're really relying on Jalen Hunt to be a player. They're going to have to probably draft another edge rusher. I think, and again, this is where Nolan Smith comes in too, right? You need these young guys to start turning the fuck up. Pardon my language if you're watching with the kids, my apologies. But you need these young players to start earning their weight. You need it. Nolan Smith, you're going into year 2. Time for you to put the hard hat on and say, listen, kill or be killed. You feel what I'm saying? This is that time. Jalen Hunt, he's going to be a rookie, but I think Jalen Hunt is going to get some snaps. BG being the OG. The edge rushers, you got what? Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham. Then you get into Jalen Hunt. You start talking about who else? You start talking about guys like Patrick Johnson, Julian Okora, Teron Jackson, Lewis Terrell. I mean, the Eagles don't have that much depth as far as edge rushers go. They really don't. But then if you want to get creative, okay, Zach Bond has shown an ability to be able to rush the passer. He's pretty athletic. Milton Williams is a tweener. You dig what I'm saying? But I think you need more there. If Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt aren't ready. And I think it'd be damning if Nolan Smith can't get on that football field. It would be damning. So they got to start figuring out the future for real at edge rusher, at defensive end. But just talking about this season, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, I think those 2 players, they have to have dominant seasons. They have to have dominant seasons. It goes without saying. They have to have dominant seasons. Spy City says, Tone, I don't believe those old coaches knew what they had. And obviously, I think you're talking about last season. That's a very fascinating point, right? Because you had Brandon Graham, who came off of a career year, and for some reason, you mean to tell me he can't get on the field a year later? I understand he's on the back end of the career. I understand that. But 2 seasons in a row, Brandon Graham was fully healthy. Didn't miss a game. Didn't miss a single game. And you mean to tell me his snap count? Look at this, right? Look at this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Look at this. Look at this. This is I'm going to show you Brandon Graham's snap count. Because in my opinion, there's no reason his snap count should have went down. Look at this. Hold on. There we go. This is Brandon Graham's snap count in 2023 compared to 2022. His snap count went down by nearly 10%. He had 474 defensive snaps in 2022. That dropped drastically to 395 defensive snaps. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I feel like Brandon Graham should have got more reps. He should have been able to take more stress off of Josh Sweat. So maybe this coaching staff was being too soft with BG, thinking they need to preserve him. No, you need bodies. And if he's only here for a retirement package, you shouldn't have brought him back. Brandon Graham need to be on that field. Yeah, it's his last season, but don't let Brandon Graham go out sad like that. Don't let Brandon Graham go out sitting on the bench. Get that man some reps. Get Brandon Graham on the field for about 450, 500, almost 500. Get him on the field. Get Brandon Graham for about 460, almost 500 snaps. I don't care. Like, that man want to be out there. There's no reason. In my opinion, if they want to say it's about age, I'm not buying that. I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I'm not jacking the whole, he old, he can't do that anymore. Get him out there. Get him out there. He's a rotational player. He's going to take pressure off of Sweat. He's going to give Sweat some opportunities to get that gas meter back up. He's going to give opportunities for Bryce Huff to keep that motor running. Nolan Smith, you got to make an impact, young man. And I just think, the Philadelphia Eagles are not in a position to bull crap on the defensive side of the ball. They're not in a position. You have no equity amongst the fan base. You have no equity in the NFL in terms of your defense. Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff, they have to lead the charge. And then those younger guys, Nolan Smith, Jalen Hunt, they gotta take some pressure off of those guys. They got to. Philly Flyover says, whatever fans say 7 to 8 wins, look at it like this. With Mickey Mouse coaches and defenses that couldn't stop a statue, still got 11 wins, stay off the crack. Exactly. And the schedule was harder last year. So whoever says, oh yeah, the Eagles only getting 6-7 wins, you smoking dope. And you don't really believe what you say. The Eagles are going to be a double-digit win season or a double-digit win team. It's not a question. Me personally, at best, I think the Eagles go 13-4 at best. At worst, I think they go 11-6. At worst. That's my perspective. What else we got here? 757 CJ says, got to keep them fresh with the healthy rotation. Line was warm by the end of the year. Little rotation last year due to tight games, I feel. Got to keep these guys fresh to maintain their impact. Yo, you brought up a good point, CJ. That defense couldn't get off the field. So you can make an argument that, and that's another thing too. It's not just about the rotation. It's about the fact that the defense couldn't even get off the field. They were forced to go the full length of the football field every single game, every single possession. That defense was forced to go all the way from goal line to goal line. So that's probably why Josh Sweat's snap count was so astronomically high, because they couldn't get out the field. The pass rush couldn't get home. The DBs couldn't protect, couldn't stop anything. The coaching staff didn't know what they were doing. We were predictable. So like CJ said, right? It goes beyond just the rotation. The Eagles were in tight games. They were forced to go the length of the football field regularly on defense. They couldn't. They were terrible on third down, and they were terrible on fourth down when it comes to their defense. They were awful. So when you're awful on third down, you're awful on fourth down, and you don't have a reliable rotation, no wonder Josh Sweat ran out of gas. No wonder Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter ran out of gas. No wonder that defense became a shell of itself. You couldn't get off the field on third down. Teams saw right through your scheme. You couldn't get out the field on fourth down either. This team was giving up third and longs to the Commanders, to the Seahawks, to the Cardinals, to the Giants. Like, I don't need to go on. They were giving up third and longs, fourth and longs regularly. So you ain't got a rotation. You suck on third and fourth down. What do you expect to happen? Your players are not going to be able to make up that deficit. But at the end of the day, I like the way this Philadelphia Eagles team has really tried to replenish the ranks. They really tried to get younger. Drafting Jalen Hunt. From the eye test, he looks the part, right? Jalen Hunt looks the part. I think Jalen Hunt is what? He's got to be like 6'5", something like that. 6'5", 6'6", 250. Let me double check this. Yeah, so Jalen Hunt is 6'4", 252. Yeah, Jalen Hunt, 6'4", 252, had a 37.5-inch vertical, ran a 4.64 40-yard dash, has an 83 inch wingspan. A 1.16-yard split. He's an athletic freak. Jalen Hunt is really athletic, and NFL Draft Buzz gave him a really, really favorable grade. So I'm just saying, right? Like, he looks the part. He's athletic as hell. I hope that translates. I love his mindset though, right? I love how eager he is to learn, how eager he is to really put his best foot forward. I really do appreciate guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. I think the Eagles have done a good job really trying to find high character guys that can really add to the culture, who really have that, who really play with that edge and have that dog mentality, right? We just needed to materialize on the football field. Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith, those two players are the future. Nolan Smith, undersized, but still has to make an impact. Jalen Hunt looks the part, former DB turned edge rusher, comes from a very small school, started in Ivy League, transferred to Houston Christian. Jalen Hunt has to make an impact in a rotational role. That's all. All right, let's see here. My man D-Love donated again. D-Love, thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate you. He says, I say that because the Eagles don't have any depth behind AJ and Smitty. And if one or both gets hurt, it's a wrap. And Moore uses the number 3 more in his scheme. It's very, very astute observation, D-Love. Look, here's the thing. I feel you, right? You don't want AJ Brown or Devontae Smith to go down. Once you get beyond those guys, you got rookies and journeymen, and Paris Campbell and John Ross. You got young guys and Johnny Wilson and Nate Smith. I mean, you don't really have much beyond your 2 starters. So that's when player development has to take shape, right? And look, you're not going to be stacked in every facet of your defense. You're not. But again, I'm not mad at Paris Campbell being the number 3 if that ends up being the case. You know, I'm not so down on it. And I also don't want to think from the perspective of, if these guys get hurt, if Baker Mayfield loses Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, I mean, who does he have, right? If Dak Prescott loses CeeDee Lamb, who does he have? If Josh Allen loses his new starting wide receiver, who does he have? We can say that about a lot of teams in the league. If San Fran loses Debo and Ayuk, who do they have? So I can't really dwell on that, but I do understand your concern though, and I don't want to dismiss it. I understand it. And also the fact that Kellen Moore utilizes his entire personnel, right? Tight end, wide receiver 3, the running backs. He, obviously the number 1 and number 2 receivers. I totally get your angle. But I guess I would challenge you to say, if any team lost their top 2 wide receivers, who do they have? That would be my retort to that. It's like you only can control what you can control. You know? Thank you again for the donation. D-Love, really appreciate you. So Dope King says, Tony Tone was good, bro. Wah, wah, wah. He says, 2 big concerns. Can Hurts thrive in Moore's offense, our defense, and our defense, in particular, D-line and linebackers? Well, I think your concerns are justified. It's going to be something that we have to look out for, right? Jalen Hurts' progression. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be fine. I'm not stressed about Jalen Hurts. I'm not like most people. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be just fine. In terms of the defense, I've talked about that last week, and we're talking about Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff in particular, this week, right? The reality is, I think you're right and justified to have concerns with the linebackers. I think you're justified to have concerns with the D line, because the D line is not coming off of the strongest season. You lost Fletcher Cox, you lost Hassan Reddick, you arguably lost 2 of your most dominant defensive linemen in one offseason. That's not easy to replace. You can't just replenish that. Now they're hoping Josh Sweat takes another step and he can have a resurgence. They're hoping that Bryce Huff is the guy that they expect him to be. They're hoping Nolan Smith takes that next step in his development. They're hoping Brandon Graham has something left in the tank in his final hurrah. They're hoping Jalen Hunt can live up to the archetype that he's shown that he has. They're gambling a lot. They're banking a lot on a lot of these guys. Old Brandon Graham, a rather inconsistent Josh Sweat, a young Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith. They're banking on guys, man. So your concerns are valid. But I said this last week. I think I said it on Friday or Thursday. I think this defense is going to have a resurgence. I think this Eagles defense is going to turn things around. I firmly believe that. I'm not down on them right now. Obviously, they haven't really built up the equity with the fan base, per your comment, right? The linebacker position, the way things went last year, being awful on 3rd and 4th down, being ranked, I believe, 29th or 30th in terms of points allowed. Your run defense completely going AWOL in the second half of the season. Did I say your pass rush was non-existent really throughout the season? It was inconsistent at best. A lot of quarterback hurries, a lot of quarterback hits, but not enough not enough sacks. So I think you're justified in your concerns, my friend. But I'm optimistic about the defense. But in my optimism, I'm going to always talk about the reality. I'm going to give you guys the real, and then I'm going to say what I think will happen. I'm going to give you my optimism. That's just how I carry it, my man. So I feel you on that. Philly Flyover says, injuries ain't a problem. 3 reasons. 1, Saquon and O-line can win games if wide receivers all out. 2, if any other, we still have, if any other, we still have 20 plus million in cap space. 3, Howard season. The last thing I want to do is put an unnecessary burden on Saquon Barkley. We know he's done it before, and he's never played with an offensive line as good, and the quarterback, he's never had a quarterback this good. Totally understand all those angles, right? But I don't want to see games without AJ Brown. I don't want to see games without Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert, right? Dallas Goedert doesn't get talked about enough, right? You still got Dallas Goedert, a legitimate tight end who himself needs to stay healthy. So God forbid if Devontae Smith or AJ Brown goes down, you got Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley with that offensive line and Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I think they should still be able to. I think they should still be able to win games. I think they should still be able to make things happen, especially with the new direction the offense is going to go in. I don't know. I don't know if that's crazy to say, but I'm of the mindset that God forbid if one of those starting wide receivers go down, okay, you still got Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, that offensive line, and or AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. But yeah, if you guys just hopping into the live stream, thank y'all so much, my man and ladies. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, especially if you're new. It means a lot to me. Also, make sure you guys share the content. Make sure you're continuing to comment and remain engaged. It means a lot to the entire growth of the channel. You guys are awesome. So make sure you guys continue to stay locked in. Please, 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 on your way in and on your way out, make sure you guys smash that like button. You know, as much as I look at Josh Sweat and look at Bryce Huff and I say, y'all gotta step the weight up, or y'all gotta show why you guys are the real deal. You know, Vic, a lot of persons with Vic Fangio as well. Vic Fangio got to get these guys ready, right? Clinton Hurt, hey, Clinton Hurt, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. I think Jalen Carter is going to have a crazy season. I think Jalen Carter is going to have like 8 or 9 sacks, and that's awesome for a defensive tackle, by the way. But yeah, I think Jalen Carter is going to have like close to 10 sacks. You know what I'm saying? I think I think he's going to go crazy this year. I just got this feeling that Jalen Carter is going to be a menace. Going to be a menace. And now that Aaron Donald's retired, who's going to take up that mantle as being the most dominant DT in the NFL? There's definitely takers, but now that Aaron Donald is no longer in the league, I don't think there's anybody definitively the most dominant D tackle in the NFL now. I think that's an open spot, but you have candidates. You got candidates. All right, let's see what we got here. So yeah, right. Another guy I'm looking at, right? I mentioned Nolan Smith earlier. I talked about him here and there. But Nolan Smith, he talk a good game. But he better pan out. I'll tell you that much. My man Cody with the $2 donation. Cody, thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate you. It means a lot to me. Really means a lot. He says, what's good? Or he says, what's a good sack total for Huff, Sweat, and Smith? That's a good question. That's a really, 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 really good question. If I'm being honest with you, if I'm being completely honest, and maybe this is overzealous, I feel like Huff and Sweat, respectively, should have 10 sacks minimum. Respectively. But I think Huff and Sweat should have 10 sacks each at minimum. Nolan Smith, because he's going to be in the rotation, he's not going to be a starting guy. I think realistically, if Nolan Smith gave me 7 sacks or 8, I'd be cool with that. I'd be totally okay if Nolan Smith gave me 7 sacks. Because I know he's a rotational guy, still undersized, a young player, still developing. I would be totally content if Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff gave me 10 plus sacks each and Nolan Smith gave me 7. I'd be totally cool with that. I already think Jalen Carter is going to have close to 10. You know what I'm saying? That's really what I think, man. So if I'm going to give you an exact number, I think Sweat. I'll say Sweat. I need him to have 14 sacks. I need Sweat to have 14 sacks. That's what I need. I need 14 sacks from Sweat. I need about 12 from Huff. And I need about 7 or 8 from Nolan Smith. That may be overzealous. It may be. I don't know. But there we go, Cody. Thank you so much for donating to the channel, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you. S Blunt in the building, my OG, triple OG. Thank you so much for locking in, as you always do, my friend. I really do appreciate your support. He says, this D-line comes down to the success of JD and JC. You know, at its core, yes, I agree with that. At its core, I think Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, they are the heart of the defense. If Jordan Davis doesn't do his job, it makes it hard for Jalen Carter, makes it hard for Josh Sweat, makes it hard for Bryce Huff, makes it hard for everybody. Jordan Davis arguably has the most important role on the defense. So I agree, as Blunt. But I think you just hopped in the show maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, maybe 20 minutes ago. But I said earlier in the show, I am of the belief that Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, but most notably Jordan Davis, they're the most important players on the D-line. But to take it a step further, I think we need to have big production from guys like Josh Sweat and Bryce Huff. I think those guys need to have a significant amount of the production in the pass rush. You know, JD, you know, he needs to take up space. He needs to put hands and feet on people. He needs to pick up double teams, things like that. He needs to collapse the offensive line. But you're right, though. At its core, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, they have to be uber successful. They have to be really successful. Jalen Carter, drafted in the top 10, you have the potential to be the most dominant DT in the NFL. You have the potential to be the most dominant defensive player on this team. He has that type of talent. He has that type of skill set. He was making life difficult for a lot of guys. Rookie season, put up what? 6 sacks? Not bad for a DT. Not bad for a rookie defensive tackle. 6 sacks in his first season. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. But going into this season, I would love to see Jalen Carter have around 10 sacks, give or take. I think Jalen Carter is probably going to have between 9 to 11 sacks. I think Jalen Carter is going to flirt between 9 to 11, 8 to 11 sacks. I think that's probably reasonable. 9 to 11. Let's stick with that, right? And between 9 and 11 sacks, I think JC does that, and I think Jordan Davis, he's going to come into the season and being in the best shape of his life. He's going to come into the season in the best shape of his life. I think he understands how important it is for him to come in and really assume that role. Fletcher Cox is not here anymore. No more holding nobody's hand. I think they all understand that. Jordan Davis, JC, and JD, they get it. They get it. Nolan Smith, I think he gets it. You know, Josh Sweat, you know, Hassan Reddick not here anymore. I think they understand the assignment. Coming off of the season the way it went, I think they get it. And I'm expecting these guys to really, really, really make a amazing impact. See, I'm optimistic about this Eagles defense. Although I acknowledge the realities, I am still optimistic, and I think this defense is going to turn things around. I don't care what anybody says. That's just my opinion. I'm sticking to it. That's just my opinion. Andrew Duty says, what's your opinion on Milton Williams and his contract negotiations? That's a good question. I think the Philadelphia Eagles will be smart to make sure they take care of Milton Williams somehow, some way. But also that begs the question, how does Milton Williams see his career? How does Milton Williams view himself as a defensive tackle in the NFL? Because it largely depends on the way the market is going to look going into next year's offseason with DTs. I don't know who's all on expiring contracts from the defensive tackle position, but defensive tackles are getting paid now. And the reality is there's a chance Milton Williams may want to test the market. Milton Williams, listen, he would be smart. He would be smart to test the market financially. From a financial perspective, listen, these defensive tackles are getting crazy money now. Milton Williams wants to get paid too. And we've never seen Milton Williams in a starting role before. And I got a lot of love for Milton Williams, but I can't get mad at that player for wanting to put the pressure on the Eagles and wanting to make sure that he gets his money. I don't know how much money the Eagles have. The Eagles right now, I don't think they're even thinking about Milton Williams' contract right now. Obviously, it's been a conversation because his agent, right? But I just don't know how they view him in the long term, especially with the DTs getting big money like this. We have to consider the notion that Milton Williams is going to say, you know what? I want to get paid. And he might have, there may be a team out there who wants to take a shot on him. There may be a team out there who's willing to pay Milton Williams some good money. Right? Again, it all depends on the way the market shakes out. It all depends on what other defensive tackles will be available during that time. But the floor and the ceiling for defensive tackle contracts has went up. And I wouldn't be surprised if Milton Williams wants to take advantage of that. I wouldn't be surprised. But look, you guys, I am about to get out of here, man. I really do appreciate the love. I appreciate you guys always staying locked in on the content. Please, please, please. I want to give a major shout out to my guy S Blunt for donating to the channel. Cody's Nuts for donating to the channel. D Love donated twice. Thank you so much. And G Dragon for donating to the channel. I really appreciate all the support you guys provide the show, provide me. It really can't be stated enough. The content doesn't move without you guys. This show doesn't grow without you guys, and the subscribers just keep going up. The views keep going up. The engagement keeps going up, and I really can't wait until training camp starts because we're going to be dropping merch. Yes. We're dropping merch in August, right? I believe that's when training camp starts, right? When's the first day of training camp? Somebody tell me real quick, right? Somebody tell me what's the first day of training camp? I can't remember. But we're dropping merch and I'm doing giveaways. What's the first day though, Bruce Banner? It was July 23rd. Okay, boom, July. I take that back. So July, once training camp starts, I'm dropping the merch and we're doing giveaways. Okay. The first day of training camp, that merch is going up on my website, and we're starting giveaways. We're starting giveaways. Okay. So July 23rd is when training camp starts. That's when merch drops, and that's when we're going to start doing our giveaways. So make sure you keep it locked, you guys. And look, I got a lot of stuff to give away, man. I got a lot of football gear to give away to you guys, man. I got some stuff for you guys, man. So please make sure you guys smash that like button. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're new. Make sure you guys are in attendance. We're starting giveaways on July 23rd when training camp starts, and the merch is going to drop. The merch is dropping July 23rd, and you guys are going to want this. I've been working on this merch for a while. Shout out to my man. Shout out to my man LB, who connected me to his designer, Jesse. Shout out to them for hooking me up, man. And let me tell you guys, this merch that I'm dropping on the 23rd, original. You ain't gonna see nobody with it. Y'all gonna want this. Y'all gonna want this. When y'all see it, y'all gonna be like, oh yeah, because this isn't just your standard merch that you will wear to cut the grass. I mean, you can wear it to cut the grass if you want, but this is the kind of merch where you want to wear that shit out. You want to pop out and show motherfuckers this. You feel what I'm saying? This is the kind of merch that you want to put on your, put on your, your Stonewise, put on your jeans and, you know what I mean? Put on your Air Force Ones, put your hat on. I'm trying to take care of y'all, man. I'm trying to take care of y'all. So y'all, when y'all see this merch drop, y'all gonna be like, oh yeah, Tone for real. You gonna be able to wear this anywhere. We're dropping one design. We're dropping one design. And it's gonna be a shirt. And then when it get colder, we're gonna drop the hoodies and the sweatshirts. So July 23rd, the first piece of merch drops, and we're starting our giveaways, okay? And it's straight like that. Please make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys stay engaged. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Shout out to my X family. Shout out to my YouTube family. And it's straight like that. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. And you guys have been locked in on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.